Hello, this is the Weekly Review, a program of Sawasawa Network. My name is Roy Joel Ferreira Mudi. I'm the producer and host. On Monday, May 3rd, South Sudan and the world marked World Press Freedom Day under the theme Information as a Public Good. The Weekly Review has gathered views from the public about the World Press Freedom Day and the media in South Sudan. But before we play those views, let me state the following. It was in 1991 that World Press Freedom Day was born. That was when a group of African journalists and media professionals at a seminar in Windhoek, Namibia, issued a declaration on the principles of free press. And over the years, several countries have enacted laws guaranteeing the rights of citizens to access information. On this year's World Press Freedom Day, Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO, said, quote, "The theme of this year's World Press Freedom Day, information as a public good, underlines the indisputable importance of verified and reliable information. It calls attention to the essential role of free and professional journalists in producing and disseminating this information by tackling misinformation and other harmful content." Unquote. In South Sudan, the day was also marked under the theme Critical Minds for Critical Times, media role in advancing access to information. As far as the legal framework is concerned, Article 24 of the Transitional Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan, as amended, provides the following. 1. That every citizen shall have the right to freedom of expression, reception and dissemination of information, publication, and access to the press without prejudice to public order, safety, or morals as prescribed by law. 2. All levels of government shall guarantee the freedom of the press and other media as shall be regulated by law in a democratic society. And 3. That all media shall abide by professional ethics. The government has enacted 3 media laws so far: the Media Authority Act 2013, the Right to Access to Information Act 2013, and the Broadcasting Corporation Act 2013. Among others, the Media Authority Act provides for the establishment of a media authority with the role to regulate, develop, and promote independent and professional media in South Sudan. The Right of Access to Information Act explicitly recognizes the constitutional right of every citizen to access information held by public or private bodies as fundamental to fulfillment of human rights and fighting corruption. And the Broadcasting Corporation Act provides for the transformation of the then South Sudan television and radio, that was the SSTVR, into South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation, or SSBC, a public broadcaster, independent from political or economic control of the government. There have been concerns regarding some sections of those laws. Meanwhile, also, the implementation have been slow and far below their schedules. On the other hand, reports about the state of press freedom in the country have not been good for some years now. And in the latest report released by Reporters Without Borders last month, South Sudan ranked number 139 out of 180 countries, dropping by 1 step behind from the position it held last year. Harassment, arbitrary detention, torture, death in instances where journalists did not practice self-censorship, and direct censorship of newspaper contents by security agents at printing presses are among the top issues of concerns raised over the years. In a statement on Monday, the U.S. Embassy Juba charged the affairs. Larry E. Andre Jr. said, and I quote, "The government needs to protect journalists and end the harassment, intimidation, and detainment of journalists. The government should facilitate the work of journalism professionals, not censoring or restricting them. Citizens should speak out at every opportunity to advocate for their constitutional right of access to information, and journalists must adhere to the highest standards of conduct and ethics." Unquote. As for the government of South Sudan, the Minister of Information, Michael McElweth, denied that in South Sudan, that there is no freedom of expression and freedom of the media in the country. He has denied that. And now we bring to you the views the Weekly Review has collected from the public about the World Press Freedom Day and the media in South Sudan. Stay tuned.
This is Tapra Spant, Chief of Education at UNESCO. As we all are commemorating World Press Freedom Day, 3rd May 2021, as every year. So this year theme is, information as a public good, which is very important themes and very relevant for the South Sudan as well. So these themes underscore the importance of verified and reliable information. It calls attention to the essential role of free and professional journalists in producing and disseminating this information by tackling misinformation and other harmful content. In this context, actually in South Sudan, journalism is really, improving well compared to the previous years, but we should not rest here. There is a immense need of capacity building for journalists, media house, and also the laws and the acts that have been already developed need to be practiced. So I can see there is a gap between policy and the practice on the freedom of expressions. So that needs to be really ensured through building the capacity of journalists and media houses. Thank you.
Yes, my names are Oliver Modi Philip. I'm the president of the Union of Journalists of South Sudan. The role of the journalists and the media in the Republic of South Sudan, like any other country, is to inform, educate, and entertain. We go beyond this role to build the capacity of the journalists in the Republic of South Sudan, and also make sure that the journalists in South Sudan meet the standard, actually the international standard of publications and dissemination of information. What we are expecting for the media in the Republic of South Sudan is that, one, we need the journalists in this country to be professional. We need them to be responsible, and we need journalists to be objective on doing their work in this country, so that the information that is disseminated are information that are true information without any fake news on it, or mixed it with some biasness and so on. So these are the kind of journalists we are expecting in South Sudan. We want to also to go as far as trying to build the infrastructures for the media in the country, because without the infrastructures we should not be able to advance the journalists ahead. The economic level of the media institutions, media houses, the journalists themselves is completely low. How do we build the capacity of these journalists? So we need to encourage them to come up with projects, to come out with initiatives, and also lay strong structures that can really economically make them viable, so that in the end we can be able to reach far. At the moment, the media houses, especially print media, cannot reach the bottom level. They just end up within Juba, and this is not what we expect. We need the people of the Republic of South Sudan to get informed from bottom to top and from top to bottom. So we don't want to end up with sections of the people of the Republic of South Sudan to be informed and the others are left out. And then we also need to make sure that the media in South Sudan should be exposed to outside media, so that they will learn how far those others are going. And because we need actually to match up with the rest and make sure that, especially going into the digital world, we need to go together with the rest of the world, rather than us to be behind and the others are ahead. So this one will be a bit a problem to us. And at the moment, with the COVID-19 issue, we need journalists to be educated on technical COVID-19 information. That is how this pandemic started, how this pandemic spread to the rest of the world, and what should be done in order to make sure that the people of the Republic of South Sudan prevent themselves from COVID-19. And this has to be done with the media, and that's what we want to do.
Good evening. My name is Angelina Nyayan Gadiet. I'm a journalist by profession, and I'm grateful today to talk about World Press Day, which is being celebrated every year on the 3rd of May every year. This is where the journalists have the freedom, to talk and to advocate for their work in every country across the globe. Two things I would like to talk about today. I'm overwhelmed with the passion of work that I do. I will talk on two things: the roles of journalism and the journalists in South Sudan. First of all, journalists and journalism are similar and they are different at the same point. Journalists, these are the professions who work, who are trained to educate, to inform, and to entertain people. Journalists, they do amazing job, in which today I feel it's the right day. We should always, and we will always remember, press freedom matters a lot.
Hello everyone, my name is Calvino Deng. On this World Press Freedom Day, I would like to wish my brothers and sisters, the journalists in South Sudan and all over the world, a happy World Press Freedom Day. I know there are so many challenges you are encountering in the profession, but don't give up. Get your facts right for your story. I'm appealing to the authorities in the Republic of South Sudan to protect journalists and to refrain from intimidation and interference in their work. Giving journalists free space in order to educate the public about events happening around them and issues affecting their lives is very important. I wish you a very happy World Press Freedom Day, my dear brothers and sisters, the journalists in the Republic of South Sudan and the world.
So first of all, happy International Day for the journalists. Journalism is not a crime, and access to information is a constitutional right for every citizen, which is enshrined in our constitution. And the journalists are experiencing a number of challenges with regards to intimidation, arbitrary arrest, and then be targeted by the government because of the work that they do. They are supposed to be independent, they're supposed to balance the story, and they're supposed to speak the truth. I want to celebrate the journalists who have been doing all this tremendous and amazing work, despite the fact that there are a number of challenges. We want to urge government to treat journalists as partners, not as people who are criminals and people who engage in criminal activity. But journalism is not a crime, as I said earlier on. So we appeal to government to treat them in that regard and follow the law, because the media law does not allow an arbitrary arrest of journalists. It's a media authority which is supposed to deal with issues of journalists. So we appeal to government to stop the arbitrary arrest of journalists and stop interfering in their work. They should continue doing their work and provide accurate information to the citizen and to the people of South Sudan.
Happy World Press Freedom Day under the theme Information is the Public Good. My name is Doug Botts. I'm the chairman of Leach Community or Unity State Community in Kenya. This is an important occasion in our national and global calendar. I would like to say there are three things. One is that we do not have first freedom in our country. We are still in the trenches, we are still in the fight, and making sure that this freedom is fully achieved. Secondly, I would like to say that congratulations to all the journalists and those in the media fraternity for the continued patriotic role that they do in disseminating right information to our people. We further recommend all journalists to have a strong and united union that exercise and communicate the plight of journalists to the world. With that, I think we'll be able to achieve that. And thank you once again. Congratulations.
If we can entertain the public, why don't you respect the work of journalists? Why don't you respect the journalists themselves and give them that freedom? Journalists save life. They educate. I repeat, we educate, we save life, we inform, we entertain. Why I say we save life? We work on human stories. There are some people who are voiceless across the globe, and each and every country, especially in my country, South Sudan. There are people in remote areas. With the help of journalists, their voice can be heard from far. There might be some misconceptions that journalists are spies. You see us with recorders, you see us with all those equipments. But ethically, we are trained to give the rightful information. But we don't have that freedom.
Hi everyone, my name is Sheila Modi. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Journalism plays a major role in each and every community, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge that without journalism would be really like more of an isolated society, because without journalism you would not be able to know what is happening within your vicinity and even outside. So it's important for us to acknowledge the role that journalism plays, and journalism in South Sudan has had a major and tremendous improvement over the years. We can see that we are having more media houses in the country. There's more improvement in terms of the quality of work we are seeing coming out of these media houses. Also, in addition to that, you can see that South Sudan at the moment, even with the media houses we have, especially like for radio, you hear the level of discussion that goes on. People are freely expressing themselves, freely willing to share their experiences, freely willing to share opinions. They share their opinions without fear. So this shows that to some extent journalism is playing a major role, and as the theme says, journalism is a common good. Yes, I believe it's a common good and continues to be a common good once it's used in the right way and if it's respected.
Thank you so much. My name is Dennis. I'm a radio journalist. I work for Classic FM. If I can talk about the media landscape of South Sudan, we are not really bad. We are going well as we talk for now. What was there previously is not the same as we talk now. We must say that we are very proud of the technology today, that it has brought everything closer, and then a lot of things coming to be rightful. If you talk about the media landscape in South Sudan, in this case we may talk about issues like when we come to access to information. The public offices, they must know that journalists are responsible, and they need to access this information at any cost. What is happening now, you go to get information in a particular office, it takes you a week, information which would have happened in just a day. And in this case, we are asking that let that barrier not be there. Whenever journalists are coming to pick information, let it be given information at that moment. Then when I come to the issue of the journalism itself, a lot of journalists are there when they're not really real journalists, they're not trained. Encourage that they join schools so that they can be able to know what's journalism, so that they can be able to understand the journalism work which they are going to be operating in order to avoid issues with the security and our reports. When I come to the part of the security, there is development so far. In the National Security Day, used not to be a communications person, but now there is a communications person, which gives us a positive move that we are going well, things will work out, and as we continue to push, things will work out and we shall make South Sudan a better place. In this case, I want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Achol Kurmarial, a reporter of Radio Jonglei and marketing officer at the same time. The World Press Freedom Day is most important to us South Sudanese journalists, especially the citizen journalists in the states and also the journalists across the country. To attribute and commemorate is we actually need the freedom of media in South Sudan to be exercised by the government and other stakeholders. What I would like to say to the partners that partnering themselves with media houses is to give the support to all the journalists across the country by giving out the fund to make journalists sustain their life and to do the good job in order the information to be accurate and for the citizen to get access to information. I appeal to all the government in South Sudan to not harass journalists, not censor the news from all the media houses. Give us the freedom so that we exercise our work and we inform the local communities in the country. Thank you.
I'm Peter Guy Magnon. I'm independent journalist, human rights defender and researcher. I've been in the media for the last 10 years. I work as a journalist with a citizen newspaper, citizen television, as well as writing for various media houses in the country, seen before the independence and also after the independence, before I joined civil society in 2012. This day in the history of the media is a very important day as far as media is concerned globally. Every 3rd of May every year is dedicated to journalists, because journalists are the eyes and the ears of the community, of the communities globally. And in this regard, the United Nations General Assembly dedicated this date for journalists who have actually been facing a lot of challenges in their career. And this is a day that is dedicated to honor the media globally, because media is one of the vital career globally.
As a female journalist, you go out to gather the human histories or to get necessarily information that can change life of 1,000 people. For you to succeed, some of us are being harassed, sexually harassed. This is because our freedom is not fully given to us. We need freedom. All journalists across the globe, in South Sudan particularly, we need freedom. The freedom of the press has to be improved. Freedom of expression, like I'm doing. So please, my dear South Sudanese, I respect the protocols, but what I need is we are the voice of the voiceless and the voice of even the voiceful people. Please, let's fight for our freedom. Thank you.
My name is Emmanuel Tombe. I'm a practicing journalist from South Sudan. I am glad to participate in the World Press Freedom Day. Journalism or journalists in South Sudan, they have played a very tremendous role. by participating to inform, to educate the public, and to share information that are vital in saving life of millions of people who are suffering in South Sudan. Journalists in South Sudan, they have worked for so many years in a country where we are still working to look forward into the democratic transformation of our people. How our people, they can understand the type of government they have, the type of institutions they have, the type of services that are supposed to be rendered to them, and the type of freedom that they can express themselves freely to participate in the development and peace-building initiative within the country.
It is very important for governments and countries globally to respect media freedoms. And in particular South Sudan. South Sudan has been harassing journalists yearly, monthly, daily. And since independence, several journalists were killed. And others also disappear up to now. Their whereabouts are not known. There have been a lot of torturings, as well as intimidating media professionals in the countries. And that's why most of the journalists who are trained journalists are in exile. And this is not a good thing to a country like South Sudan that is supposed to respect media freedom. In this regard, I urge the government of South Sudan to respect media freedom in the country and to protect journalists who are practicing their careers, because without media, then there can be no any survival in the country as well as globally, because it is a media that educate masses on the thing that happens globally.
I want to say that the press is very important, and of course there are other things that we need to also consider. The freedom of press means a lot towards our democracy and towards also our people getting the right information that they are supposed to actually have, as guaranteed by the constitution and also as guaranteed by nature towards the freedom of press. Yes, I may say, yeah, there are other significant signs or symptoms that shows that there is a bit of free press in South Sudan, but again, it's just because our press currently is still a soft press, it's not actually a critical one. And I want to say that what the people should outline, more especially the authorities should understand, is that the press should be free, and to help our people understand exactly what is supposed to be done and what is supposed to be actually or consumed on the press. It is actually significant that having a free press will help our people get the information that they deserve to get. We get information from the people and we impart back to the people, and they are able to judge and whatever it is necessary. And having a free press means you are able to criticize and oppose what is actually against the citizens of South Sudan. And of course, I want to say, like, the government should, what I am against is the issue of licensing the press, that is the newspapers, which is actually prohibited by international law.
If we are saying journalism is for public good, yes, journalism is for public good, because journalists work to enlighten the public, journalists work to inform the public, journalists bring things that destroys the society in order to form and give a new ways forward that everyone can share in order to make sure that services are rendered and delivered.
Once there's media freedoms, and then there comes democracy. And in this regard, I urge the government of South Sudan to respect media freedom. And when media freedom is respected, then journalists will work freely in the country, and they will be able to do better for the communities. South Sudan has been graded as a least country as far media freedom is concerned, is in the category of Iraq, Somalia, and other countries. But we don't want South Sudan to be categorized in that way. South Sudan should copy from other neighboring countries in East African region, which are having actually a fair media freedoms. I also urge my fellow journalists to respect media freedom as well use report accurate news, because with media there are media ethics and laws that are followed and that are the principles that guide this profession called journalism.
Happy International Press Day. On the roles of media in South Sudan, I believe the media and the journalists has been playing a critical role by disseminating the right information to the public and by keeping the public updated about the progress of their government on day-to-day basis on what they do and what they're not doing, and how should those leaders be held accountable by the public. That is the role that the media should play in this country. On the aspect of the media freedoms and the journalist freedom and the freedom of expression, how should they be protected and guided? What I can say on these two aspects is that the first thing that should be done is that the journalists themselves should, when reporting, should make sure that they report what is authentic and what is real, by not taking side and by not favoring any side. They should just report what is there, what is exactly happening on the ground. On top of that, the government should also ensure that through the parliament that laws concerning the freedom of expression should be implemented, not in the papers but also practically, so that everyone feels free to express themselves. I think also the international community should also look into this, that the freedom is almost being under attack in this country because everyone is fearing to express themselves openly. Because you know, if anything happened to you, no one will follow up later on. You just go on forever, no one will remember you. So I believe there should be those laws in place to make sure that every journalist or every citizen is free to express themselves freely, as long as they don't incite violence or hatred toward any other person.
Journalists are the drivers of journalism. They are the drivers. What do I mean? I mean to say that without journalists, we could not have journalism. We cannot have this free expression of ideas, free expression of our opinions. And so journalists are the drivers. They are the drivers of this work of journalism generally. So our journalists are very vital. They are the ones who go out there, fetch the stories. They're able to bring us stories that are well balanced. Maybe once in a while you'd find stories that are not necessarily balanced, but in most cases you find that the stories that we're having in our medias right now are well balanced. They're able to get our stories, and they're able to get the right opinion leaders to talk about issues that are affecting our communities, and also address issues that are affecting various communities in the countries. So this is very important that we acknowledge the role being played by journalists, because without journalists we cannot have journalism.
A free press should not just be spoken, but it should be something that is actually implemented by the authorities and also by the practitioners. The journalists should actually implement what is supposed to be actually done as a press, and the journalists should actually write what is actually supposed to be written, not what is supposed to be actually impressed. And of course, these days we are seeing our newspapers being actually posting the stories that actually impress people. But again, that is not actually what the press is all about. The press means a lot to the people, and we deserve to give right information to the people. And of course, whatever we post or whatever we publish on newspapers and whatever we broadcast on our radio stations, or even whatever we broadcast on our TVs, should be something significant towards actually our people, and something that can be consumed, and that's something that can actually shape the opinions of our people.
Journalism in South Sudan is quite difficult. Why it is difficult? Because journalists themselves, they censor themselves. If not through journalists, people who are supposed to give information to journalists, they censor themselves with fear of repression, with fear of attacks, with fear of being harassed or intimidated. So if we need a good environment or improvement in South Sudan, we need to have a free media, a media that can speak, a media that can promote transparency, a media that can promote accountability, a media that can educate the people on their rights, a media that can bring light on issues of concern, issues that create peace, issues that reconcile, issues that develop people in the Republic of South Sudan.
All right, my name is Rita James. I work for a community radio station based in Juba, South Sudan. It's Sama FM. Today is the International World Press Freedom Day. I'm so happy that we are celebrating this day because we really need a freedom of expression. And through this day, we are able to express our feelings and express what we want exactly the government or the media authority to do for us as journalists. And one of the most important things is that we are crying for freedom of expression, freedom of information, because sometimes we are not given information. We are denied the right to access information for the public use. So my message is that they should give us the chance to talk to our officials and then bring the information to the public.
Hello, a happy World Press Freedom Day from South Sudan. Journalism in South Sudan is a little bit different compared to some other countries in Africa and also in the world. We all know that we are amidst conflict, be it within South Sudan and also within the neighboring states. But then, journalism in South Sudan or journalists in South Sudan provide critical information to the public and also bridges information gaps, and also they provide checks and balances in terms of service delivery, in terms of governance issues, and among others. Now what needs to be improved is this. There is censorship that is happening. For example, in the print media, there are certain articles sometimes that when you buy a newspaper, you see a page is blank. It is because it is removed at the last minute. So this needs to be removed. This needs not to happen again.
My name is Bida. I'm a reporter at Equator Broadcasting Corporation, EBC, and also an associate editor at 211 Check, a fact-checking and information verification platform in South Sudan. The media environment in South Sudan remains very challenging because journalists go through a lot, especially when it comes to censorship, when it comes to harassment, among other issues. But still, journalists try their best to see that government institutions are held accountable and also they execute their duties as enshrined in the laws of the country. So for this media environment to be improved, journalists have to really be very, very vigilant, and also editors have to play their part. They should see that they stick to their code of ethics. And from the government side, governments should be able to create awareness, especially to the security apparatus, on their role, on the role of journalists, and the extent to which they can intervene in journalistic issues.
Sometimes you find there's a lot of intimidation by security organs. They are followed up. Some even lost their lives in the course of this work. So it's important that the government of South Sudan, because without these journalists, your work in the country will not be acknowledged. Nobody will know what the government is doing. So it's important also for the government to acknowledge the work being done by the journalists and journalism generally in the country, and also support this kind of work.
Well, with that, we have come to the end of the program, the week review for this week. Keep in touch. Keep following us on social media, Facebook, and also on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep in touch with our programs.